We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27.
Hello, everybody. And I'd like to welcome you to the event today, which is pretty much focused on the startup bill. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay and see me okay. As we kick off, I would first like to introduce, we have different special guests today that I would like to, introduce and recognize. But today is a very special day for the tech ecosystem of Nigeria, and also for us here at NESG and the Digital Economy Policy Commission. The Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Isa Ali Pantami, distinguished heads of ministries, departments, and agencies, captains of industries, heads of associations, donor communities. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board and management of the NESG, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this pre-summit event of the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit, NES 27, which is organized by the Digital Economy Policy Commission of the NESG. My name is Bumi Akinyemiju. I'm the CEO of Venture Garden Group, and today I'm representing and I'm serving as the facilitator for the NESG Digital Economy Policy Commission. So in my capacity today as the facilitator of the DEPC, I welcome you to this pre-summit event. I think it's going to be an exciting time. I think it's going to be a great time, and I think it's going to be a defining moment for the future of the tech ecosystem of Nigeria. Today, we will be engaging panelists on the topic, the Nigeria Startup Bill, National Stakeholders Roundtable. That is what today is all about. And this is one of the several pre-summit events that will be taking place to essentially lay the foundation of public and private sector partnership for the development of the Nigeria technology entrepreneurship ecosystem. The 27th summit has a special theme this year, and the theme is Securing Our Future, the Fierce Urgency of Now. It is scheduled to hold on the 25th and the 26th of October 2021. If you have not registered yet, I invite you to go on www.nesgroup.org/27 to pre-register right away. Essentially, the pre-summit engagements is an opportunity for virtual conversations like we're having today that forms part of the overall conversation, bringing in the public and private sector during the actual summit. And the goal is really to provide the necessary foundation that will leapfrog Nigeria into a future of high and sustained inclusive economic growth. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the Digital Economy Policy Commission. As an introduction, the DEPC, that's the short form, was introduced as a response to the global and national thrust that relates to how Nigeria can essentially compete favorably in the fourth industrial revolution. We have four thematic areas of focus. Number one is the digital skills, innovation, and entrepreneurship. That's the first thematic area. The second one is digital platforms and financial services. The third one is e-governance, policies and regulations. And the last one is digital infrastructure and tech sector financing. You'll see that these thematic areas are very much aligned with the strategy and the policy of the Ministry of Communications, digital economy. And we're very, very excited about that. And in fact, the DEPC has had a pretty positive partnership and engagement history with the Ministry of Digital Economy and Commissions. And that is one of the things I'm most excited about today, that the step to create this partnership between public sector and private sector through NESG has already started on a good footing. What are the examples of that? I have three of them. Number one is we had a webinar called Post-COVID-19 Nigeria, Assessing the Impact of COVID-19 on the Nigeria Economy and Post-Pandemic Strategies. We had the honor of having the Honorable Minister attend this session, and it was a very, very positive session that ended up with a position paper speaking about how Nigeria can essentially get over the challenges of the pandemic using digital economy as the strategy. The second partnership, we had an event that focused on digital identity, which essentially followed the process where the Digital Identity Agency, NIMC, was now embedded in the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. We hosted an event, we had an incredible set of attendees, we had the World Bank there, we had several institutions and organizations, and it was very, very positive. The third and the last one that is also the most important is the Nigerian Economic Summit Group essentially engaged with the NCCDE. That's the 8th National Council on Communications and Digital Economy, which held in Owerri, Imo State, from November 27th to December 2nd of 2020. It was a fantastic engagement that included the federal government and all the state governments. And in that session, the partnership between public sector and private sector was grounded to essentially formally launch what we call the Digital Economy Industry Working Group. At least now the proposal to launch that was presented and it was essentially approved. And that process has now been submitted to the ministry. I'm excited today because the Honorable Minister is with us today, and we hope that the Honorable Minister will actually begin the process to help us to inaugurate this industry working group in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, its agencies, and the organized private sector. That will be our biggest ask from the Minister, and we're so excited to have the Honorable Minister here today. Essentially, zooming into the event today, we have special speakers, and it's really about the startup bill. It is one of the only, or if the few bills in the history of Nigeria that is actually owned by the ecosystem, drafted by the ecosystem. It is the single most important legislation that can help to protect Nigeria's nascent technology entrepreneurship ecosystem in order to catalyze the growth of the technology startups in Nigeria, which is beaming with great potential. And essentially, Nigeria has been very, very privileged to be in the forefront of innovation across Africa, to be in the forefront of raising capital across Africa, to be in the forefront as well of raising unicorns across Africa. What the startup bill seeks to do is to consolidate and harmonize all the government policies in order to make it more encouraging, in order to catalyze the movement that is already going on across the ecosystem. Because of this, I'm very, very excited. Because of this, the ecosystem is also very excited, which is the reason why, they all came together and drafted this, working very, very closely with the presidency, the presidency office as well. So their objective today, essentially, is to have this roundtable, which seeks to achieve the following three things. First is to facilitate legal and regulatory alignment towards the passing of the bill. Secondly, is to establish a platform for an ongoing conversation where the policy and lawmakers, the beneficiaries in terms of the startups, can curate ideas and ensure the successful implementation of the Nigeria Startup Bill. Thirdly, is to create the awareness among all stakeholders about the importance of the Nigeria's technology entrepreneurship ecosystem that can actually take Nigeria into the fourth industrial revolution. With this introduction, I'd like to just do a little bit of housekeeping and say I would like all participants to turn off their microphones so that we can have a seamless conversation today. I would like to thank everybody that has contributed to the bill so far. I don't want to name one person because it has been a community effort, which is very, very incredible. If you have questions, please type them into the question box in Zoom, and if the coordinators will pull that out so that the relevant person can essentially, make sure that those questions are answered. If you're watching on Zoom, just type in your questions in the comments and somebody will pull that in. On this note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you again for honoring our invitation and making out the time to attend this webinar today, hosted by the NESG Digital Economy Policy Commission. We look forward to a very impactful and successful deliberation geared towards a robust conversation about this startup bill. We hope and we pray that before the end of this year, this bill will become live. We hope and pray that upon this bill being activated, that Nigeria gets to generate lots and lots of more unicorns, right? And on that note, I would like to introduce a member of a board of directors of the NESG, Mr. Nana Ude, for his opening remarks as we kick off this event today. Thank you very much. Nana, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother Bumi. The Honorable Minister for Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the board and management of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, I would like to welcome our special guests, resource persons, and roundtable participants to this National Stakeholders Roundtable on the Nigeria Startup Bill. It is one of the pre-summit events of the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit, which is by the Nigerian Economic Summit Ministry of Finance, Budget, and National Plan. The purpose of this event is to engage with stakeholders in a series of virtual conversations and sessions in the weeks leading to the summit, which will hold from October 25th to 26th, 2021. The outcomes from these events will form part of next 27 deliberations for summit participants to explore and conceptualize pragmatic solutions to our most pressing and immediate challenges, strengthening our human capital base, mitigating security challenges, and laying the necessary foundation that will leapfrog Nigeria into a future of high and sustained inclusive economic growth. Nigeria has a vibrant startup ecosystem with over 750 startups, which have progressed remarkably over the last 5 years. A growing number of success stories involving digital and impact-focused businesses are driving investor engagement and startup support. Just recently, Flutterwave announced a $170 million Series C round, officially crossing the line of $1 billion in valuation and joining Interswitch in earning the title of a unicorn from the African continent. However, with the rise in several stringent regulatory decisions, the survival of startups and the growth of Nigeria's tech ecosystem is greatly threatened. When the regulatory environment places a heavy burden on startups by imposing a multiplicity of complex, overlapping, and inconsistent regulations, the negative impact is real in significant costs. In most instances, regulators tend to also focus on the wrong areas, and worse still, such regulations do not take account of industry and market changes. It is therefore important for government to work with the private sector to find the right balance between maintaining smart regulations that govern an industry and ensuring that businesses within a local economy remain regionally and globally competitive. To this end, there is the need for a reorientation of the institutional role of regulations towards a market-creating and market-growing function. Therefore, we need a legislation that can harness Nigeria's startup potential rather than constrain their growth. The Nigerian Startup Bill is the single most important legislation that can help protect Nigeria's nascent technology entrepreneurship ecosystem and catalyze the growth of technology startups in Nigeria. Let us remember that despite its economic and social devastation, the COVID-19 pandemic provides an opportunity for Nigeria to innovate and go digital if we must accelerate economic growth. And tech is the pivot around which this bright future turns. Therefore, the implementation of this bill will be key to the country's economic diversification agenda. The theme of this year's summit, Securing Our Future, the Fierce Urgency of Now. The theme of this year's summit is Securing Our Future, the Fierce Urgency of Now. So this pre-summit event will evaluate the opportunities that the Nigeria Startup Bill will unlock for the country's technology entrepreneurship ecosystem and examine the impact of government decisions on its development. So it is our hope that today's public-private dialogue will help to facilitate the involvement of key stakeholders and strengthen the foundation for the ongoing collaboration that is required for the development of Nigeria's technology entrepreneurship system. So once again, I welcome you to this event and urge you, like Bumi did, to register for the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit by going to www.nesgroup.org/27. I look forward to a robust engagement that will produce impactful outcomes that can be implemented easily and quickly in the national interest. Thank you very much, and I hand over to my brother Buni to carry on with the event. Buni, over to you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful address, Nana. Really, really appreciate it. And without further ado, I'm actually going to welcome you to the most exciting part of today, right? I am excited about this. I think that what today represents in terms of the startup bill is groundbreaking, and it's significant. You know, a lot of startups are watching today. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of young people are saying, is Nigeria going to produce the bill that's going to transform my life? And because of that, and because of the significant role that the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy has to play, I have the special honor to actually introduce a special person to you, somebody who has been very supportive of NESG and the digital economy policy, somebody whose administration has also made a very big impact to lay the framework, the foundation, and the policy for Nigeria to be able to leapfrog into this fourth industrial revolution. I hereby introduce Dr. Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He holds a BTech in computer science, a master's in technology management, a master's in business administration, a doctorate in computer information systems, and is a professor of cybersecurity. He's prior to his appointment as minister, he was the DG of NIDA. He mandated the research and development in ICT under that organization. He's currently the Chief Digital Officer of the Federation based on the National Policy for Virtual Engagements in Federal Public Institutions. He also serves as chairman of the member of several presidential interministerial committees. He's received over 150 awards, including the award of Best Minister on multiple occasions. Professor Ibrahim also holds certificates in digital transformation from Harvard, digital strategy from MIT Institute of Management Development in Switzerland, strategic leadership from Oxford, and University of Cambridge certification in management. Professor Ibrahim lectured at the university for almost 2 decades, teaching ICT courses, and is still engaged with the academia voluntarily as a professor. Join me in welcoming our Honorable Minister, Dr. Isa Pantami. Thank you very much for the keynote address.
Thank you, my brother Bumi, for overblowing my trumpet. I find it difficult to get the protocol right here. I have been going through the list of the participants here virtually. So permit me to recognize almost everybody here with us virtually, because as far as I'm concerned, any person who creates time out of no time to be here with us virtually is an important person. So because of this, permit me to recognize all of them as friends, brothers, and associates, and also stakeholders in the digital economy sector. Good afternoon to all of you, and also may peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you all. Firstly, I am highly delighted to speak at the Nigerian Startup Bill National Stakeholders Roundtable, organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit group. I begin by commending the effort of the Nigerian Economic Summit for the events they have been organizing from time to time to bring stakeholders together in order to support the economy of our country. The effort of NES is highly commendable, and I encourage them to continue to maintain the tempo, because at this critical moment, we need bodies like Nigerian Economic Summit to continue to champion the coordination of private and public sectors to come together and discuss about how to develop our national economy. The effort is highly commendable. Secondly, at the federal government, and particularly as the minister in charge of communications and digital economy sector, I strongly believe that we will not get it right until we continue to encourage partnership, collaboration, engagement between the public sector on one hand and the private sector on the other. This is the best way we will be able to get it right, to make sure that all stakeholders will come together either physically or virtually, discuss issues, make recommendations, and after the meeting, they go ahead with the implementation according to the individual role they are to play, and at the same time, according to the mandate of the institutions they represent. It is because of this that I think this roundtable is also highly commendable, because private sector is represented, public sector is also represented, and academia is also represented. We encourage that approach, triangular approach, as the case may be, where we engage all stakeholders in whatever we do. Even today in the morning, I was represented by my permanent secretary to inaugurate a committee that brought together private sector, public sector, and academia on research and development in the telecommunications sector. We came up with the initiative in order to ensure that we always come up with recommendations that are accepted by the majority of the stakeholders, and that will make it easier for implementation. And it is because of this, I commend the effort of NES, and I encourage them to continue to redouble the effort and ensure that we continue to get it right. Startup is very critical to the success and to the development of economy in Nigeria and also globally. According to a recent research which has been released in 2021, that the value of the world startup is up to 3.8 trillion USD. The value of global startup is up to 3.8 trillion USD. So if you look at the figures, 3.8 is even higher than the individual gross domestic product of many G7 countries. In Nigeria today, our GDP, with all our population of around 210 million, our GDP is averagely or approximately around 550 billion USD. But global startup is valued at around 3.8 trillion USD. By implication, one may safely say that the global startup is more than 7 times the GDP of Nigeria as a country. And Nigeria has the largest and the biggest GDP in Africa, followed by Egypt, then recently South Africa. So this is to show to us that the global startup is more than 7 times the GDP of Nigeria as a country, which has accommodated approximately 210 million people. This is to show to us how startup is developing. And if you look at it as it is today, Amazon started as a startup. Bill Gates started with a startup, for example. Mark Zuckerberg started with a startup. Because any idea that has been conceptualized from 1 to 10 years is within the range of a startup. This is to show to us that the successful global leaders, tech leaders, started with the idea of startups. And this is to show to us that the earlier we give priority and preference to our startup in Nigeria, the better for all of us. In addition, startup is key to economic development. That is why, as the facilitator, my brother Bumi earlier said, this Nigeria Startup Bill came up as a result of a joint effort between all stakeholders, particularly even starting with the startups themselves. They came up with some recommendations and observations, and that recommendations and observations were forwarded to the presidency on one hand and to the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy on the other. And this is what brought about the idea of this Nigeria Startup Bill, which I think is almost ready. And I have conveyed the progress we have made so far to the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, so that they will be able to support what we have been doing with regards to Nigeria Startup Bill. And I also personally engaged him just less than a week ago. It is just on On Monday, I engaged him physically to discuss about the way and manner this startup bill can be facilitated by the executive arm of government so that it will get a favorable consideration by the National Assembly. So the engagement has gone far, and we have started the formal communication with the Office of the Attorney General. Last week, I conveyed a letter to him officially on behalf of all the stakeholders here. And this week on Monday, I engage him physically so that we will be able to facilitate the bill and get its approval as soon as we can. Because I have been agitating that Nigeria as a country, we will not be able to create many more jobs for our citizens. We will not be able to develop our economy effectively. We will not be able to be the giant of Africa until and unless we are able to manufacture what we need and also to consume what we manufacture. We have the talent in our country. We have people that can make this country very proud. What they need is for government to provide the enabling environment for them. And this is what we have been doing through so many policies, like National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy for a Digital Nigeria, Nigeria National Broadband Plan 2020-2025, and even our recent, our national policy for the promotion of indigenous content in the telecommunications sector. That policy has been approved by Mr. President, and it gives priority and preference to our indigenous technology in the country. So now the challenge lies on our table. Our innovators, they are to take up the challenge and ensure that we are able to produce and manufacture. We are able to develop what we need to consume, particularly in the digital economy sector. Even today in the morning, we were in the office of Mr. President, where he inaugurated Monitoring and Evaluation Council of Executive Order 005, which was signed by Mr. President on the 12th of February 2018, in which all federal public institutions had been mandated to always make sure that their priority and preference when it comes to resources, human resources, and when it comes to deployment of technology must be given to our indigenous companies. And Mr. President has directed that that executive order should immediately be integrated into a law of the land so that we will be able to have an indigenous content law that will protect our technology, our indigenous technology on one hand, and also protect our experts, our indigenous experts on the other. So I think these are some of the initiatives of the federal government to provide the enabling environment for our investors, for our developers, and for our youth that have the talent to take up the challenge and produce startup. According to the global startup has 3 ingredients. Number 1, it's time frame, usually from first 1 year to 10 years. 2, startups usually come up with an idea, real-life solution to a problem that is in existence. Whenever we come up with any innovative idea to handle a real-life problem, it falls under the category of a startup. And number 3, startups usually are job providers, not job seekers. They come up with ideas that if they are successful, that idea will create many more jobs. So startup owners are not job seekers, but in real sense, they are job providers. And this is what Nigeria needs today. We need people that will think outside the box, come up with innovative solutions that will change our life positively, and at the same time, to be able to provide job opportunities for many of our citizens. And it is because of this, we have taken this Nigerian Startup Bill with all seriousness, and we will continue to engage all stakeholders to make sure that we are on the same page. And I do hope that when this bill is approved, it will be another turning point for our success in building our indigenous technology sector, particularly in the digital economy sector. And I will appreciate that after this roundtable, some key recommendations will be presented to the federal government of Nigeria through my office for consideration either in the Nigeria Startup Bill or in any area where government intervention is required, so that we join our hands together to ensure that at the end we have a win-win situation for all. May the Almighty bless the roundtable, and may the Almighty bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and amen, amen, amen to that.
Before your comment on your prayer, the inauguration of the working group, I have directed my technical assistant, Dr. Femi Adelui here, to coordinate. So after this event, you will be able to reach out to him on the inauguration. You have my endorsement 100%. Thank you.
Yay, awesome. We're very, very excited. We're very, very excited. I am very, very excited today. And I think the speech that has been given by the Honorable Minister has just proven that Nigeria is open for business, and the world is just, I mean, what the world is going to get out of this is going to be incredible. I mean, and for me, the speech that the Honorable Minister gave, there's a few things that jumped out at me. Number one, here's the minister giving us an update on the process of the approval of the bill. What happened last week, what happened now, what's happening with the Attorney General, what's happening with the Ministry of Justice. I think that is incredible. Secondly, I am also excited to hear how the minister spoke about the idea that startups, they're not job seekers, they're job creators. So as we talk about creating jobs, as we talk about the scale of unemployment in the youth in Nigeria, they talk about 70% of Nigerians are below the age of 30, and 30% or 35% of them are unemployed. How are we going to create those jobs? It's the startups, it's innovations, it's ideas, and we can do it. So excited to hear the minister talk about that. I'm also excited to hear about the monitoring and evaluation committee that has been put together by the president to ensure that Executive Order 005, if you don't know that, go online, check it, Executive Order 005, very, very interesting. And the prioritization of indigenous technology and companies and startups in public procurement and those types of things, also very, very exciting. I think these are all very, very positive news. And then the last one that is most exciting, right? Because we can talk about the good progress today. What I think is most important, especially in Nigeria, is sustainability of our action. So this very move that the minister has just made and endorsed today in terms of this industry working group between public sector and private sector now creates a continuous and sustainable framework for that collaboration to happen. And of course, today represents, for me, as far as I know, I could be wrong, this is the first bill that really came from the ground up. Like the minister said, the startups drafted some ideas. Then, of course, the presidency got involved, which, again, I think I'm going to call on the presidency next. And also the House of Reps, the Senate, everybody participated. And that's why there's no one person that can say they own the startup bill. It's owned by the ecosystem. It's owned by all of us. It's owned by Nigeria. I think that is really, really exciting. I am very excited. And thank you to Honorable Minister for, the remarks. We appreciate it. Thank you. Now, I'd like to walk through the agenda very, very quickly, just so that you know what to expect out of today. We have a packed agenda. We're 40 minutes into it. I hope we're still doing good on time, but we have a packed agenda. I'm about to move to the goodwill messages, but please, can you pop open the agenda for today? There are 10 items that we have today We have now finished 2 of them. We've done the welcome address by the NESG board. We've done the keynote address that was extremely powerful by the Honorable Minister. We're now moving to the goodwill messages shortly. We're going to have special remarks, and the goodwill message is going to have somebody I'm going to call on, my good friend Oswald from the presidency. We're going to have the chairman of the House Committee on ICT. We're going to have a special advisor from Lagos State. We're going to have somebody representing the commission, the High Commission of British. We're going to move from there into presentation 1. And when we go to presentation 1, which is all about what are the key provisions of this bill that we're talking about today? Why are we so excited about it? From there, we're going to move to presentation 2, and presentation 2 speaks about global best practices. What are other countries doing? From there, we're going to move to our breakout session that's going to be managed by one of my colleagues, Emmanuel Adegboye, who is also part of the Digital Economy Policy Commission, and he's going to orchestrate and manage the breakout session. From there, we move to closing remarks, and I think it's going to be an awesome day. So with that, join me in welcoming somebody who is very, very special to us, somebody who was very, very active in championing this incredible bill, and somebody who also represents the presidency, which without them, we could not be where we are today in terms of the stage, the status, and everything of this startup bill. So the SSA to the president, Oswald Gubadia, please join me and wish him a welcome. Oswald?
Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's been a very exciting program so far. I mean, my Honorable Minister's speech was just excellent and on point as usual. The Nigerian Startup Bill has been quite an exciting project to date. As the activities have been going on, I've been typing messages to the group and saying, you guys must get on this call and listen to what's going on here. That there's a lot of excitement about the bill and it's just fantastic. So thank you for having us. Okay, sorry, I had something pop up. So good afternoon. My name is Oswald Gubadia, Senior Special Assistant to the President, Digital Transformation, and the lead for the Nigerian Startup Bill. It's been a journey so far, and we are excited to have everybody involved and pushing this bill forward. I'm super excited that my Honorable Minister, Communication and Digital Economy, has spoken today, and he has set us on the right course for the day with his exciting message and his support for the bill. His leadership on the NSB has been tireless. I mean, I've called him, we've chased him, asking for different things to help us with, and he's been always available for this. He's been tireless and exemplary. So we thank him for this, and we thank the Almighty for his life and all the efforts he makes for the digital economy. I also want to take this time to also thank the Honorable Abubakar Lado, who's also here, for his partnership, because that's where the bill is going next. We're moving this to the National Assembly, and he's partnered with the bill as is with the attendance today, and he has a drive to get this bill passed. So we also need to thank him for partnering with the Nigerian Startup Bill and helping us move this forward. I would like also to thank the Nigerian Economic Summit Group for producing this event for the Nigerian Startup Bill, which we believe, I mean, it almost sounds redundant for me to say it because I've already heard it today. We believe is the most critical piece of legislation for the Nigerian digital economy and critical support for the change agents of our future, the youth. We believe this bill is going to help them create an enabling environment for them to develop their ideas from ideation to exit. We believe this bill will be a great platform to increase the engagement between both parts of the ecosystem. So we like to think of the ecosystem as both practitioners and regulators, and bringing them together is what this bill does. So, we'd like to thank everybody for making the time to join us today. We will not take this for granted, and we look forward to your contributions today. As you know, this bill is just one among a series of key initiatives, as the Honorable Minister just mentioned a few of them, that the presidency is using to drive building a more sustainable ecosystem for young people in Nigeria to thrive and scale. The bill will ensure that there's regulatory certainty, required infrastructure, and access to capital to support the growth of startups and capacity building. The journey is ongoing, and we're taking a big tent approach. That's what's so beautiful about this. So everybody who has a say in the ecosystem is invited to join this big tent. Therefore, we welcome support from everyone who is interested in seeing our young people succeed. So thank you for the opportunity to speak quickly. Looking forward to the rest of the deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Oswald, for that. Really appreciate those comments. And I think the work that you're doing at the presidency at this critical juncture, at this critical time of the country is so crucial. And we are very excited at the progress being made. And we look forward to what's going to.
Without further ado, and I hope everybody can still hear. Just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. Without further ado, I have the honor of bringing on our second goodwill message, another one that I am very excited about. And that is the person of Adaeze Sokon. She is representing the British Deputy High Commissioner. She has been extremely active in the process of making those edits and suggestions and so on and so forth to the startup bill. So we're so excited to have you on today. Adaeze, over to you.
Hi, Bumi. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm really representing the British Deputy High Commissioner who couldn't be here today. I am the country director for the Nigeria UK NG Tech Hub, where we support all the different players in really promoting a thriving digital ecosystem in Nigeria. I thank the Digital Economy Policy Commission for putting this pre-summit together. I think it's really timely in this moment where we're pushing the Nigerian Startup Bill. I want to commend the doggedness and commitment of the Office of the Presidency and the Vice President's Office, and also to the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami. That was a very inspiring, powerful, and hopeful speech that you gave. I actually had goosebumps on my body. But I thank you for that. The commitment definitely cannot be doubted. Thank all the stakeholders for the excellent approach. I don't think we've seen any high level of collaboration and co-creation amongst all the different stakeholders, from MDAs to government, to startups, to VCs, to campuses, to developers, everybody just coming together to really push this initiative. The level of ownership is commendable. The level of co-creation and collaboration is commendable. And I just want to sort of encourage us that as we've started this journey, that we see it through the end. And I believe that the bill will pass just with the level of ownership and buy-in from all the key stakeholders. So let's maintain this commitment, let's maintain this energy until we see it through to the end when it passes. And also when it passes, to implement the bill, because that's actually how we have good value. There's no doubt that this bill is very key to a successful, thriving digital economy. And it's great that all key stakeholders understand the value. So we're very, very happy to be supporting as the UK government in Nigeria. We want to continue to support such initiatives. And we're really glad that we could be part of this pre-summit, because I think that this is a really good step in securing our future in Nigeria. So thank you for having me here. And I wish us all fruitful deliberations today. Thank you. Over to you, Bumi.
Thank you, Adaeze. Awesome. And I loved how you ended that. This is significant because it will help us secure our future. Everybody today is just thinking about the future of Nigeria. We're thinking about a very competitive world that we're moving to that is very virtual, and it's about securing our future. Securing that future has to be driven by digital, right? And so we're very, very grateful for the support of the British High Commissioner, and all our global partners in getting to this point. Now, the next goodwill message is going to be from a special sister to me, Adia Soho, who is a venture builder and operator and somebody that you all are familiar with in the tech ecosystem. So joining me here is Adia. Over to you.
Hi, Bumi. Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm really honored to be speaking to you today. It feels historic as we pave a path for the growth of technology startups in our great nation. Before I begin, though, I'd like to recognize the Honorable Minister, Dr. Issa Pantami, whose very palpable desire to make the sector viable and resourceful has supported what we are discussing today. Welcome, sir. I also want to acknowledge, give special hailings to my Ebon, Oswald Gwabadia, SSAP on digital transformation.
All right.
It's built into welcome the project that I was working on before I made my transition into MTN, but it's ably I hope to continue to support it from my current capacity. The growth of our economy and its health is not solely dependent on the government alone. There's a lot the private sector can do to ensure that it supports the government's efforts. And one of such efforts is the one we're working on today. Along with our partners, we're delighted to have you participate in this roundtable of national stakeholders for the NSB as a pre-NESG 27 event. We recognize the sacrifice that many of you have made to be here today. We know schedules are tight, but I'm pleased to see how many of us are here, and it serves as a reminder to us all just how important the startup bill is to our development and what the growth of startups means to the country. It will interest you to know that the Q3 2020 GDP report released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates that the non-oil sector was primarily driven by information, communication technology, and financial institutions. These two industries largely house a lot of the technology startups that we are hoping to support today with this bill. To put this in perspective further, Flutterwave has been mentioned, but I'd like to add InterSwitch, OPay, and recently Andela as startups that have reached more than $1 billion in value. These are just a few of the many tech companies operating in this country, and I expect that we will see more of this size happening more frequently. The dam has been broken, so I expect to see way more. So with this figure in mind, imagine how much more the Nigerian economy can benefit from these current and future positive activities, given the global trends in technology, as long as there is an enabling environment. This startup bill, amongst the many positives, aims to create laws that provide startups with a clear and consistent regulatory framework. This will ensure regulatory certainty, which will encourage, local founder confidence, investor confidence, and hopefully lead to a rise in FDI inflows. Once again, thank you for being present for this historic event, and we look forward to a favorable deliberation, one that I hope ensures that we all leave here fulfilled and ready to take our startups to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Prepare to be challenged, inspired, and informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Adia. Really, really appreciate that. And very, very good point on the number of unicorns that we've had. I'm still trying to count just in Nigeria, right? Starting with, your InterSwitch, and even Jumia came out of Nigeria, right? Andela, Flutterwave, OPay, the list continues, and that is without a startup bill. Now, what do you think will happen with the startup bill that deliberately, essentially creates the enabling environment to make African startups, Nigerian startups to be more specific, grow exponential. I think we're in for some excitement, especially on the back of the presentation by the Honorable Minister. With this, I'd like to thank Adia, who is representing the tech ecosystem. That's everybody, that's all of us, that's all startups that is aspiring to do great things. Want to thank you, Adia, for that. Now I'm going to move to the next part of the agenda, which is presentation number one. Presentation number one is going to be given by Davidson Oturu. And the topic is, what are the key provisions? What are those provisions in this proposed startup bill that's going to create this exponential impact, that's going to create this, many, many, many more unicorns, right? So we have 4, 5, 6, depending on how you count it, unicorns over the last 10 years. How are we going to create 60 in the next 10 years? That is really what Davidson is going to come to talk to us about. And with that, I'd like to welcome Davidson Oturu. Thank you.
Thank you, Bumit. And I wish that actually had something that could give us maybe like 100, 200 unicorns.
I'll take that. We'll take that.
Thanks so much. So what I'll just do is just to take us through some provisions of the startup bill, right? And let people have an idea of what went into drafting the bill. The next session, of course, we'll look at some other jurisdictions, but just to let participants know that quite a lot of research was, done towards trying to arrive at where we are with the bill that is with the Ministry of Justice now. And we have actually shared all of that material with the Ministry of Justice so that they know where we're coming from and not have that impression that we're trying to create something that is not already working in some other jurisdictions. So as some of us are aware, there are different countries that have already come up with their own startup bill or startup act and already seeking to implement them. There is Tunisia, of course, since 2018, they've been doing a lot of amazing things over there. There's Kenya with a bill, there's Ghana, there's Malta, there's Mali. So we looked at most of these jurisdictions. We looked at the peculiarities of Nigeria. And so much as we would love for a few things that happen in those places to take place here, we are mindful of how unique we are as a nation. For instance, if you look at Kenya, they set up an agency, to implement the provisions of their startup bill. We're not looking at that because already from experiences, we know that setting up an agency doesn't necessarily solve the problem. So what did we do? We looked at actually doing something that we consider as being novel, unique, but at the same time would ensure that this bill gets implemented when it's passed into law. So sitting at the top and ensuring that the provisions of the startup bill will be implemented, we have a national council. This may sound a bit government-centric, but here how it's going to work. This national council will comprise of private sector individuals as well as relevant government agencies. Of course, the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy will play a crucial role in that, as well as NIDA, as well as the Ministry of Science and Technology and the Ministry of Trade and Investment. And then you would also have venture capitalists, you have angel investors, you would have startup representatives, you would have hubs as well. You would have ecosystem players also forming part of this council that will meet on a quarterly basis and roll out policies and what would ensure that the ecosystem thrives. Part of what the bill also seeks to do through the council, that will also have the president sitting as the chairman of all of that, will be that the harmonization of a lot of these laws that affect startups, having a level of regulatory certainty around what goes on. We've seen it happen time and time again. Startups or innovators get onto something, they feel that it's a game changer, and then the government brings out the policy and suddenly a sector is basically shut down. What this bill is trying to do through the council is to say, look, let there be some form of clearinghouse. We understand that regulators have their powers And this is not trying to step on those powers. What it's simply saying is, look, there has to be a collaborative effort towards ensuring that whatever policies are released do not serve as something that restricts, but rather enables startups. And as part of the powers and responsibilities of the council, some of these things are there. Having a say with these regulators, and those quarterly sessions that they'll be having, you would see policies roll out on a regular basis that would enable the ecosystem. What we also looked at too is, if you look at Tunisia, they have something like a council agent, right, which is a private sector led entity that ensures that that their Startup Act is being implemented. And if you look at Tunisia, which is an amazing system, you would realize that having that sort of agency in place has ensured that most of the objectives that were set up and the timelines for the implementation have been carried out. And we said, let's have some form of monitoring and evaluation system in this, because like we all know, there are so many laws that exist in Nigeria. I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I do understand the amount of laws we have. There are many. But if we look at Nigeria with all the regulations and laws, we still have problems. We realize that the problem is implementation. And what we looked at is having a council agent that will serve as an agent that will work with the council, right? Monitoring and evaluating and feed them back on the steps that are being carried out to ensure that the council itself is fully abreast of what is happening and will take steps to ensure that the provisions of the bill have been properly implemented. There's precedents for this even in Nigeria, and so we looked at that. We also included it in the bill. We consider the council agent has been quite critical, because in the absence of being able to evaluate what you are doing, then year in, year out, you'll be churning out incentives and all of that. But with no clear paths to knowing how it is impacting on the ecosystem, then all you're just doing is throwing money away. I would say that another innovation that you would find in the bill is what we call a startup engagement portal. Now, this is a platform that enables different players in the ecosystem to come together. There is a consultative forum where they will be able to brainstorm, introduce ideas and policies, and have their representatives who they would elect and will then be on the council to ensure that their recommendations also come into play. Now, for startups that are registered on that portal, they get to enjoy quite a number of incentives that we have outlined in the bill. Naturally, there are tax incentives, right? Now, another thing that we did is we looked at different existing laws like the Venture Capital Act, the Nigerian Investment Promotions Commission Act, the Investment Securities Act, quite a number of laws. And we looked at how to effectively harmonize most of these laws, some of the incentives that exist there, bringing them into the startup bill and seeing how they can play off each other. We also looked at the number of the tax laws we have, right? And you'll be amazed at how many they are and how they impact on startups. Now, what you don't know, you can't enjoy. There are tax regulations that actually provide that employers can enjoy certain tax rebates by reason of the number of employees that they have and the sectors that those employees are working in. We have more or less brought in those provisions into the startup bill. The rate, like I said, it already exists. What we're just looking to do is to give it teeth, so that startups can know that this exists and they can indeed enjoy the benefits that comes out of that. For fintechs, for instance, as well, there are provisions within the bill that seeks to address some of the challenges that they have with maybe the SEC or the CBN. Now, another thing that we need to know is that in the month of August, we did have an interactive session with different MDAs. There were about 40 of them at director level. We got all of them in the room. We put this bill before them. They gave their comments, their feedback, which were well received. We've taken those comments and we've looked at how we can effectively work with them. So they themselves would not be receiving a strange document when they see this. And that was to make sure that whatever provisions we're putting in there, be it on public procurement, tax incentives, immigrations, and all of that, they would have a clear understanding around that. Another thing that we've done is there's also a startup investment fund, which is supposed to help early stage startups who are looking to scale. They can actually have access to that fund. There'll be someone who would manage the fund and ensure that those who are entitled to it would actually enjoy incentives from that as well. There are provisions on talent development. There are provisions on interacting with hubs, technology-free zones, a lot of things that have gone into the bill to ensure that the startups are able to work within the system and grow. And at the end of the day, what we're looking at are what we have termed co-created regulations and laws, whereby the government is there on one hand, the private sector is also there on the other hand, and together they're working side by side. NIFDA will definitely play a strong role in this, and the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, because tech-enabled startups that these agencies and ministries will definitely have to interact with at the end of the day. So these are some of the provisions that you will find within the bill. We are certain that at the end of the day, it will lead to growth of the economy, like the minister said earlier. We're certain that at the end of the day, there will be a level of certainty, and harmonization of most of these laws that are fractured and all over the place. And at the end of the day, the ecosystem will be able to thrive and grow. Thank you. I see that I probably had about 10 minutes for that. So I've been able to cover most of the provisions of the bill and what to expect when it comes into play. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David Singh. So it's great when lawyers are talking, because you guys are very, very thorough and you highlight all of the areas that are very, very crucial. For me, one of the areas that really jumped out at me is the global benchmarking. So this is not brand new. It's also the fact that as we all know, Nigeria has a lot of bills. We have a lot of, policies. We have a lot of these things. The idea of now harmonizing everything into one, I think it is incredible. You're speaking about the talent side. You spoke about the portal. You spoke about the funds. You spoke about the government side. And then most importantly, you spoke about the monitoring and evaluation. So the implementation side, we all know that is where things fall apart. So by baking in that monitoring and evaluation, which the Honorable Minister also referenced, by also breaking in this collaboration between the private sector and the public sector so that the conversation is active. That is how we build sustainability into this, so that we're not just doing the same old thing all over again and expecting a miracle to happen, right? So I'm really, really excited. I encourage everybody. There is a website for the startup bill. What is it called again? I think the website is startupbill.ng. It would be great if it can be posted on the comments. So startupbill.ng, you can jump on there. And I think everybody who has contributed, I want to thank them. So many people, so many organizations, so many individuals who's volunteered, the engagement with the MDAs, everything has just been incredible. And I think this might be the way. I'm hoping that the process of an ecosystem bottom-up approach of developing and designing a bill and getting it approved in record time, I'm hoping it becomes a reference point. I'm hoping that it becomes the way that policy making is done in Nigeria moving forward. I'm hoping that every bill has a website that people can go and read and contribute to before it becomes live. And I'm hoping that all of this happens, not just in my lifetime, but it happens now, that it happens this year. I'm really, really excited. On that note, I'd like to thank Davidson again for the great presentation and for walking us through the key components of the bill. And with that, I want to jump to presentation number 2. And presentation number 2 is by John Stever. And John is going to speak about global best practices and perspectives from countries that have passed the startup legislation. So similar legislations, which other country has done this? How has it gone? How successful has it been? So that we can actually get to crank out hundreds of unicorn out of the Nigeria tech ecosystem. John, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Bunmi. It does indeed feel historic indeed today, as Adia said. And it's really, for me, really deeply personal and professional privilege to be here with you today. The last time that I had the ability to actually travel to Abuja was in 2018 to work with Dr. Pantami, our honorable minister, when he was honorable director of NIDA, and also together with Sholape and Adaeze, to organize a series of policy consultations to co-create the National ICT Innovation and Entrepreneurship Vision. And so while we're ostensibly here today to talk about the NSB, or the Nigeria Startup Bill, I would like to talk to you about the NSC, or the National Startup Conversation. And this is a conversation that's not starting today and it's not ending in the next few months with this bill. It's a conversation that's been ongoing for years. It's a conversation that will continue for decades. It's a conversation of a generation. And so while we're here today in Nigeria to be talking about this, there are conversations happening all across the continent in the spirit of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, in the spirit of unleashing the innovation and entrepreneurial potential of a generation. These conversations are happening in South Africa, in Kenya, in the Ivory Coast, in Burkina Faso, in DRC, Niger, Benin. They're happening in Rwanda. And I would like to explain to you a little bit about how this sort of process has been emerging across the continent, although I have to acknowledge my dear colleague Davidson for doing a really exceptional job of already painting a good picture of what's involved in some of the other startup bills on the continent. But I'll just share my screen with you to share a presentation, just to show you a little bit in a historical context what this actually looks like in terms of these national conversations on entrepreneurship. So actually the first national startup legislation, or at the time, Small Business Act legislation, was actually passed by Ghana in 1981. It took another 14, 15 years before we start to see a series of these national entrepreneurship and startup bills being passed in South Africa and Zambia. And what you start to see is an increasing number of legislations taking place over the course of the early 2000s and leading up to today. You see the government of Tunisia 2-3 years ago passing the first Startup Act on the continent. But since that time, we've seen a tremendous acceleration in the interest of governments across the continent to really legislate and support startups. And as I just mentioned, this list of countries, we really see this taking place all across the continent. And so it's really important. I think everyone on this call today doesn't need to be reminded of the number of startups and unicorns that are emerging from Nigeria, which is of course the biggest economy on the continent. But it's really great to see the national startup conversation that's been ongoing for several years really reach this point. To talk a little bit about one of the other startup bills that has passed in the last few years, I'm going to talk about the Senegal Startup Act. And I think it's really important because the Senegal Startup Act, very similarly to the Nigerian Startup Bill, has really focused on this nationwide conversation, as my colleagues in the president's office like to call it, the big tent approach. And so they went through over 19 months in Senegal of conversations. There were more than 1,000 people engaged. They had more than 50 activities. There was an online consultation platform. They went through more than 20 iterations of the law, engaging with many different ministries, with the president's office of Senegal as well. And what was important to emerge in that process was that actually it wasn't just the Senegalese Startup Act that emerged from that national startup conversation. There was also a national finance law that passed at the same time that emerged from that same conversation. So in Senegal, what you saw was this Startup Act up here on the top right, which had benefits for Senegalese startups. There was easier access to information, reduced taxes, intellectual property support, grants and loans, public procurement preference, and there was growth support for startups. Similarly to the bill that's being discussed, there's a process for labelization of the Senegalese Startup Act. One thing that was really unique about that process in Senegal was that it also generated benefits for all small businesses. So at the same time as the Senegalese Startup Act, there emerged also this finance law that massively simplified taxes. The country went from 11 different tax rates to 2 rates. Business registrations costs reduced for small businesses across the board by 60%, and a 3-year tax holiday was put in place for the smallest businesses across the country to be able to really support the emergence of potential entrepreneurs. And what's really important to emphasize, and I'll go off screen share now, is really the fact that this national startup conversation, again, doesn't end with this bill. And in fact, one of the most important provisions of this bill, as Davidson pointed out, is actually this forum that's being established to be able to ensure that this conversation that's happening today continues into the future. And so what we saw in the Senegalese case and what we're seeing across the continent right now is that these conversations are leading to bills and they're leading to a range of policy reforms. As our moderator just mentioned, this is not just a new bill, it's a new way of making bills. It's a new way of making public policy. It's a new way of engaging young people and entrepreneurs in the political process to be able to ensure that public policies serve the people that they're intended to benefit. And that brings in the collective intelligence, the expertise of entrepreneurs and small businesses across Nigeria, across the country. And so what we saw in Senegal, for example, was that this national startup conversation, not only did it create a national startup act, it created also this finance law, but less than a year after the bill, the act rather, passed in Senegal, another conversation started between young people. They started a national youth debate with their Ministry of Youth and Ministry of ICT to talk about the ways in which young people can engage in other areas that affected youth employment, to engage in issues that affected mitigation and adaptation to the really pressing emergency needs of this climate and ecological crisis. So the national startup conversation, again, it's about contributing to this national startup bill. And we have, I think, really the pleasure and honor to be joined by exceptional legal support teams and the best entrepreneurs in the country. We're able to learn from these lessons from Senegal, from Kenya, from Tunisia, and then to really be able to make sure that the Nigerian startup bill idiosyncratically really serves the needs of Nigeria's startups. So with that brief overview of the sort of approach, I'd really just like to congratulate everyone for being here. I think we are all aware that the challenges are great, but the opportunities are much greater. I really encourage everyone for being here and being a part of this conversation. The Nigerian Startup Bill is only going to be better if you contribute. And it's only going to be implemented if you continue to work with the government. And so I really applaud the conversation that started and the continuation of that conversation in the generation to come. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, John. The challenges are great, but the opportunities are greater. I really love that line. I hope I can steal that from you, John. So I really thank you for that. And thank you for really opening our eyes to the fact that what we're talking about here is not, it's not brand new, right? It's been done in other countries. It's had immense impact. It's not just about the bill, but it's about what happens after. I cannot overemphasize that enough. So passing the bill is not the destination. It's really about the monitoring and evaluation. It's really about this national startup conversation. I think that is big. And it's a conversation because we have to bring in the startups, we have to bring in the university system, we have to bring in government, we have to bring in the corporates, we have to bring in the regulators, we have to bring in the central bank. And you all know what I mean by that. We have to bring in, the banks, and everybody has to work together towards one common goal. We have to bring in the pension guys. We have to bring in the Nigeria stock market, right? It's not good enough that it is only, foreign organizations that are backing Nigeria talent. It's not good enough that for a company to be able to raise anything over $5 million, $10 million, that they have to go and register in Delaware. It's not good enough that for a startup to be successful, they have to go and spend months in California, to just sit down at YC. Where is our own YC in Nigeria? Where is our own capital? Where is our pension funds? Where is our own exchanges, right? To participate in the capital flow, in the excitement, in the wealth creation from Nigerian talent, which is today at a scale that Nigeria has never seen before, ever. So I'm really, really thankful for the two presenters who presented what the startup bill means to us, what the provisions are, and what's being done in other countries like Tunisia and other countries all over the world. And by the way, this is one of the first times where a bill will be co-created by everybody, all of us. You can go online, you can read about the provisions, you could contribute to it. And this is going to be really a watershed moment in the history of Nigeria. And like I said before, I hope that this becomes the template for policy making, because the more we sit around the corner and just complain about bad policy making by government, the more that will continue. The government is extending the hands and saying, we have to do it together. Nigeria belongs to all of us. So on that note, I now want us to practice that and continue this conversation. So we're going to kick off the breakout rooms, where we're going to divide ourselves into smaller groups and start the conversation and curate the conversation. So join me as I welcome my colleague, Emmanuel, who has played an incredible role in leading one of the thematic groups of the Digital Economy Policy Commissions, which is the digital skills pillar. And so he's one of the leaders of the Digital Skills, Innovation and Entrepreneurship thematic group. And by the way, for everybody watching, you can volunteer and register for the Digital Economy Policy Commission. We're always looking for our volunteers, always. You can become a member, it's open to everybody. And with this, I'm gonna pass it on to Emmanuel to run the breakout sessions. Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Bumi. Hi, everyone. My name is Emmanuel. I'm here in my capacity as the co-lead for the Digital Skills, Innovation and Entrepreneurship thematic group of the NESG. So I'll just quickly run us through how the breakout sessions would run. So today we're going to have 3 breakout sessions. Could you put up the presentation, please? And we're privileged for each of these sessions to be facilitated by very, very fantastic people. So we have the first breakout session would be on incentives for key stakeholders in the startup ecosystem, whether that's startups, investors. But basically, we would love to hear your thoughts on incentives, right? So if you're interested in a conversation about what sort of incentives should be in the bill, or you heard something in the presentation by Davidson and you're like, how about this? Have you thought about it this way? That's the breakout session to go into. And that session would be facilitated by Tosin Fanirodada, who's the MD CEO for Endeavor Nigeria and a key player in the ecosystem as well. Breakout session 2 would be on enabling legislations that work for the ecosystem. So how do we ensure that this bill is actually enabling things rather than restricting innovation in that sense, right? How do we ensure that this bill is actually solving a problem rather than creating more problems, as it were? And we have no other than Jude Ferrami to facilitate that conversation. So everyone who had the opportunity to unmute their mics and have a conversation during those sessions. So if you're interested in that conversation, please go ahead and join that session. And then last but not least, we have the breakout session on making the startup bill work. So governance for effective implementation. And this conversation will focus mainly on how do we ensure that this isn't just a bill on paper, right? How do we ensure that the bill actually has teeth and is effective and it does what it's supposed to do, right, from an implementation standpoint? And we're very fortunate to have Madam Yemi Kerry, moderate this session. I believe everyone within the ecosystem knows that, so she needs no introduction. So everyone would have the opportunity to pick a breakout session, depending on which conversation you're interested in joining. You should see a pop-up any moment from now. And each of the sessions would run for 30.
Looks like we have lost connection with Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you on?
Sorry, yes, I'm back. Yes, so each and every one of us would get to pick a breakout session depending on the conversation that you're most interested in. I mean, if you want to be part of two conversations, don't worry too much about that because notes will be taken for every session and would have our facilitators come back to give a 5 minutes recap of the conversations that were had in each of these different breakout sessions. Just also remind us that a report from these sessions would be shared. I mean, as the minister mentioned, it would want to read a report from this, but beyond this, the bill development process is an iterative process and an ongoing process. So all of the feedback and all of the conversations that we have today would still go into the bill development process. So these conversations are super critical and we're really looking forward to everyone sharing their thoughts and views with us. So in a moment from now, we'll all go into these breakout sessions and we'll see everyone back in about 40 minutes. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and then we'll take those at the end of the sessions as well. Thank you so much and see you all soon. Just in case you're struggling to join a breakout session, you can find the Breakout Rooms tab on your screen or at the bottom of your screen. Just click on it and pick whichever of the groups you are most interested in contributing to. Thank you. Just to also mention that if anyone is struggling to pick a particular breakout session, just let us know in the chat and we'll assign you to your preferred breakout sessions.
Hello, good afternoon. So the breakout sessions are ongoing. If you're still on the main session and you have interest in a particular breakout room, please let us know so we can assign you to it automatically.
Somewhere where we said it's yours to collect.
So time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. apathy impact our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesg.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme: Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date: the 25th to the 26th of October 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27.
Thank you so much, everyone. It looks like we are all now back in the main room. I trust we had wonderful deliberations in our different groups. I would give the facilitators a minute or two to put together their notes, and I would call them one after the other to please give a 5 minutes or less recap of the conversations that happened in each group so that everyone can benefit. We'll go in the order of the 3 breakout sessions. So we had Tosin on enabling incentives. We had Jude on enabling legislation, and then Yemi Kerry on governance structures. So we would go in that order, and we'll just give a minute or two. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat while we wait. Otherwise, we will go into the 5 minutes recap each once Tosin's ready. It felt like time went by.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, it did. Thank you, Emmanuel. I had to take a quick bio break. So we talked about a lot of things. And first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for having me. It was a real honor to facilitate one of the breakout sessions. I facilitated the session on incentives for key stakeholders in the startup ecosystem. And when we say key stakeholders, we talked about incubators, accelerators, investors, educational and research institutions, and large corporates as well. And some of the things that we highlighted, I'll just high level because it's a lot of stuff, but just incentivizing commercial banks, for instance, to be able to give loans to fund startups. We also talked about how important learning is and the importance of a collaboration between academia and startups to bring products to life. An example of a model would be the GSM village model or a computer village model, for instance, or something similar for startups. We talked about market access. So an incentive for public and private sector to help adopt and validate products. So that would tie into incentives for large corporates, which would also be incentive for the startups as well. We talked about research institutions and how important research institutions are, and the importance to be able to protect intellectual properties and also provide grants to research institutions. We talked about startups being able to pitch solutions to government. So for instance, during this pandemic, there should be like an open portal where startups can, or a platform where startups can pitch solutions to government, especially for civic solutions and civic engagements as well. We also talked about a current initiative. So there's a NITDA initiative that, which is a registration, I think it's a platform that is supposed to prevent public sector from procuring foreign products. So we talked about actually including that in the startup bill so that everybody is on the same page and doing that. We also talked about incentives for successful startup founders to be able to mentor upcoming startups as well and the next generation of founders. So any kind of incentive for their companies, perhaps not for them personally. And then we talked about fast tracking registration of companies. We talked about a special kind of registration for startups. And then we talked about, which I really liked, we talked about business generation. So we talked about like Nigeria being the Delaware of Africa. So the way everybody is going to Delaware to register their business, perhaps they can actually start coming to Nigeria and start paying, some of these taxes here. And one of the entrepreneurs in our session did say that, he's compared different tax policies, and he feels like the tax in Nigeria is actually much lower than other places, and this would be an incentive for other companies. And then last but not least, we talked about basic needs. So we said that, no matter how how exciting your idea is or your product is, the truth is, if you are struggling with basic needs, it will be a distraction. And it will be very difficult for you to, focus on your product or focus on ideating this, whatever it is that you're working on. So we talked about perhaps a salary for up to 3 founders so that they're able to focus their attention on their idea and their venture. We talked about a lot like other things, but in summary, those are the highlights.
Thank you so much, Tosin. It sounds like the conversations were really, really productive. I really like the idea of Nigeria being the Delaware of Africa. I think it's a useful framework to even think about what the bill can do in that sense. So thank you very much for the recap. We'll go over to Jude now. Just a reminder that all of these conversations are being recorded, and like the notes will definitely form part of a report that we do send to for the Honorable Minister, but also into like any further revisions of the bill. Over to you, Jude.
All right, thank you very much. Really great session that Tosin. In the conversation we had for enabling legislation, just to recap, the title for that session was Enabling Legislation That Works for the Ecosystem. And the idea here was to see how do we ensure that the legislation that we're pushing forward is supporting startups instead of creating even more barriers or more bottlenecks for the ecosystem. And the things that we talked about here were taking into consideration, number one, the definition of what a startup is, especially since we have a lot of new businesses that are opening up. How does a startup qualify? Or what kind of startups exactly are we talking about? And in this case, discussions we had around technology-driven companies. Much more importantly, a very, very interesting conversation around a national mission of reducing unemployment, so that the startup bill works in, yes, creating unicorns and more unicorns, but much more importantly, also enabling small businesses that are to be technologically driven so that they can grow largely and grow at scale so that they can employ more people and then reduce the unemployment rates in the country. And then ensuring that legislation also works. Definitions matter, like I already mentioned, but also that there should be proper definition of terms in terms of which companies or which organizations does this legislation affect or impact on. Because there are many legislations, someone mentioned that there are a number of legislation or laws in the country that basically just exist everywhere, but it's very difficult for industry players, for example, to know that this applies to me or this applies to our company. And that the gray areas, so one of the things is gray areas in terms of how do you ensure that there are as low as possible gray areas in the startup bill that we're presenting, and that becomes law eventually, because these gray areas then limit implementation by the different agencies or the ministry. So clarity in the kind of legislation that's being put forward is important as well. And then another very interesting conversation we had was cascading the different levels of government in Nigeria as affects startups. There are no startups in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Startups have built and own their offices in local government, in states. And while the federal effort, additional startup bill is important and solves a part of the job, there's also a necessity in ensuring that startups in the local government, the local government taxes, the levies, the taxes that are collected at the state level are also impacted by legislation that works eventually for startups, and that one other thing is the overall responsibility for startup technology in Nigeria. So in the case where you have people who have startups for brewing technology, for example, how do you make, someone mentioned about how do you make more beer from, how do you effectively make beer from maize using technology? That's a startup. Compared to what we know with fintechs and digital startups that usually play on information and communication technology, and there's a need for an overall hacking sense, or how does this law impact on innovation across board? Yeah, so these are the issues that were discussed in the session, and hopefully we send some of these ideas to help impact on what we did for the Nigerian Startup Bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Drew. That was really, 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 really helpful. Yeah, looking forward to the notes afterwards. Last but not least, I'll hand over to Madam Jenny Carey to give us a recap of our session. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Our session was looking at the issue of governance and how it will address the implementation of the startup bill. We looked at the governance structure that has been recommended with the National Council, the agents, that is the council agents, and how these are supposed to play in the implementation of the bill. We had deliberations, and as a summary, one of the key issues that came up was whether we had started discussions with the subnational and how involved they are in the implementation. They're going to be in the implementation of the bill. It was important that we consult with them and have some engagements. Our recommendations was that we should have some level of engagement with them. We could do that through the National Governors Forum, and also through the speakers of the House of Assemblies, a forum that the NESG already has, is also already working with. And in order for us to look at how we could localize the bill in the different states. The other recommendation that came up was that we should, unfortunately, a lot of people had not had privy to the bill. However, our discussions were, based on the implementation of it, and then that we should have a proper audit of the bill in itself to ensure that it does not conflict with any of the constitution or any of the other legal legislations that are already in existence. And if it does conflict, how do we address those? That's one of the things that we should be thinking about in terms of implementation. One other thing that came up and that took up some time in our discussions was the implementation agency. We were made to understand that the NIDA in the bill is supposed to be set up as the secretariat for its implementation. And there were different opinions about having a government agency being the one that would enforce or implement the startup bill. One aspect of it was that we needed to make it as simple as possible and remove any form of bureaucracy in its implementation, because of the nature and the characteristics of startups. They like things being fast, and any bottleneck would actually put them off. The other thing was, the other option that was discussed was set up an agency to deliberately carry out the implementation of this. And the agency should also be cognizant of the fact that it is an agency, and we need to create a regulator inside of the bill, so that it does not conflict with the implementation of it. So the other thing was that the policy environment vis-a-vis the existing legislations must be put into must be borne in mind, so that there are no conflicts in terms of our implementation. In doing this, we discussed that in the implementation of this bill, it depends on the nature of the bill, and the nature of it will determine who can drive it, really. Whether we have an agency that can drive it, or have it interact with the legislature in itself. This was a critical point that was highlighted, looking at the nature of the bill in itself. The other issue that came up was, the interoperability of the different agencies that would be affected or that need to support the bill in itself. The bureaucracy and how we would meander between different agencies that are affected by this bill was one key highlight that we needed to consider in its implementation. There was a school of thought that we should run the bill as in a business-minded fashion, so that we should look at an organization that can drive the implementation of the bill, like something, they gave an example of how bills and how acts are implemented in Singapore, and that we should look at it, they simplify it and they simplify it and work on it as if it was being run as a business entity in itself. We also spoke extensively about the ease of the business environment. The importance of eradicating bureaucracy while we look at the implementation, and we need to put mechanisms in place that would enable all of the startups that are eligible have access to the incentives that have been put in place. In other words, one of the recommendations was that we should look for a mechanism that would check the conflict of interest, so that all of the facilities or funding that comes does not go in one sort of direction, or that the startups have a level playing ground. One of the critical things that was points that was also made was how we could integrate the higher institutions and educational institutions in play with the startup bill. One suggestion was that we should look at the quality of our education, which we already are doing with Ministry of Education. But most importantly is to have startup labs in the universities or higher institutions, thereby starting off the implementation of the bill from the institutions, as it were, and also to identify champions. Apart from the tertiary, educational institutions, we should look at incubators and accelerators who can be made as part of the implementers of the startup bill, a place where the startups already know and are comfortable with, and they can already also have access to information about their incentive and their rights from the accelerators and incubators or the champions that we so identify, so that they have this information at hand, and that processes or access, how to access are shared with them, and that these institutions or these champions can also be part of the implementation of some of these policies that are in the startup bill. That was before we were bumped out of our discussion room.
I wonder how much more would have been said if you were involved, because all of this is a lot. I mean, I picked up on a lot of points, from higher institutions and startup labs to driving this as creating a business entity, sort of like Singapore, to the role of subnationals, and a lot more that needs to be unpacked. It sounds like a lot was said in your group as well. So thank you so much to you. Thank you to Tosin. Thank you to Jude and everyone who has contributed to each one of these groups or to each one of these breakout sessions. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. So we're really grateful that everyone came out today to share their views. With I think on this note, I would hand over back to Bumi, who's our host, who would give the closing remarks and end the event. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you very much to all the facilitators of the breakout session. Thank you to Emmanuel for coordinating that. And thank you for all our distinguished guests for staying on with us up to this point. We're actually just about at the 2.5 hour mark at this moment. And I think it's been an awesome, deliberation today. I think we've had some high quality conversations. And I think that it's clear that we are pretty much at the edge of something that could be very, very significant, both for the startup community, but also for Nigeria as a whole. Because again, my hypothesis here is that if we get this right, the concept of crowdfunding and an ecosystem coming together to actually kind of design a bill, and then in a very collaborative, holistic, and approach and an inclusive approach, bring that to passing in an extremely short amount of time, this could be changing. It could be game changing for everything that we do in Nigeria. So on that note, I want to just thank the Honorable Minister. And I think that, the submissions, there are actually 4 things that the Honorable Minister said that I think is so significant, I'm going to hold on to. One is the Honorable Minister communicated his strong interest in the passage of the NSB by sending the approval to the Minister of Justice, right? And also approval to the National Assembly. He gave us a status update on what has been going on. And he said that he is helping to drive that approval. That's number one that I think is very important for the ecosystem. Number 2 is he also stated the importance of startups for the digital economy as a strategic job creator. And I think that is very, very significant, where the policy-making infrastructure of the country is seeing the startups as job creators, essentially. And I think that is very, very important. And we're going to see that in the execution that we pray and we hope. The third one is the Honorable Minister said that he will appreciate after this conference to get all the recommendations, right, and the resolutions. So the breakout sessions, I really like a lot of those recommendations, particularly the idea that can we make Nigeria the Delaware for Africa, exceptional. So I look forward to compiling all of these recommendations and then getting it to the Honorable Minister, and then seeing this, come to life. And then the last one, the Honorable Minister also gave his approval live of his full backing of the digital economy working group. That is the public-private sector working group and the inauguration of that. We are hoping to use the NES 27 to essentially drive the inauguration live on camera. And he assigned the execution to the technical assistant, his technical assistant, Dr. Femi, to be able to champion this. So, Dr. Femi, we're putting you on the spot here. We're looking forward to it. On my last note, very last note, a lot of this work that we're doing at the NESG under the Digital Economy Policy Commission is driven solely through a volunteer network from startups, private sector companies, anybody. It's really open. Anybody that has a passion to see Nigeria change, we are actually inviting you to essentially join the Digital Economy Policy Commission. And you can also select which of the thematic group that you're interested in. That is being projected right now on the screen, and you can pick anyone you're interested in. And to volunteer, please send an email to info@nesgroup.org, and you can also copy the emails on the screen. On that note, my name is Bumi Akinyemeju, once again, CEO of Venture Garden Group and the facilitator of the Digital Economy Policy Commission. Thank you so much for joining this roundtable today, and wish you a great rest of your day. Thank you.
We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme, Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date, the 25th to the 26th of October, 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27. We are almost out of time to change our nation. Inflation upsets our welfare. Insecurity threatens our safety. Political apathy impacts our freedom. Digital exclusion limits our potential. We all deserve a secure future. If not now, when? Participate at the 27th Nigerian Economic Summit. Theme, Securing Our Future. The fierce urgency of now. Date, the 25th to the 26th of October, 2021. Register on www.nesgroup.org/27.